Hey guys, thank you for joining me at Designing Designers. I thought I'd give a quick video just so that I could give you some methods and techniques on how you can actually begin to do product ideation and validation, and even some of these things that you could launch and test and have some validation by the end of today. So I just want to throw it out there as well that if you do have any problems or questions or queries throughout the competition, then just reach me on my Discord. I am here to be used as a resource. So please don't be afraid to just ask a lot of questions, because I just kind of like doing it anyway. So you're not bothering me, just come and ask me. More than happy to help out. The first thing I want to cover is that you need to just start really basic with a vision statement / hypothesis. And this is just basically like a really quick overview and outline around what it is that you think that you're solving and how you want to solve it. So what future state do you want to create? The whole reason behind you doing this is that it allows you to formulate your next step and at least articulate what it is that you want to do. Now, it's very likely that you're not going to be 100% on the mark. In fact, almost nobody is 100% on the mark with their first original idea. So that's where validation and product testing comes in. And that's what I'm going to cover today with some methods and techniques. You should also keep in mind that the whole reason that you're creating a product in the first place is to try and meet a real need and problem. And this is really the crux of product development, because you need to understand, yes, what is it that you want to create, but you also need to understand why you want to create it. So what problem do you think it is that you're solving? Problem statements do not have to be complex. They can be really quite simple. And you shouldn't try and trivialize problem statements. And what I mean is, there is no problem that is too basic. If it's causing somebody real pain, then it's something that's going to solve a problem, and therefore it's bringing value to someone. If you're in the middle of winter and your boiler parts have just broken, then suddenly boiler parts are extremely interesting to you. It just depends on the context and what your pain is and how much pain it provides you. So don't get too worried that it's not too flashy. Anything, if it solves a problem, can be useful to someone. Okay, so from here, what I want you to have a hypothesis / vision statement, and I want you to have listed out your problem statements. So where do you want to go and what do you think it's solving? A hypothesis / vision statement. From here, you can begin picking ways around how you can actually test this idea, okay? It should be relatively low friction, this first bit of validation. And what I mean is, you shouldn't be spending a month trying to figure out a way to test this. You should be figuring out a way to test this within like 1 or 2 days. And this is actually a lot simpler than you think it's going to be. The first method that I recommend is just start with a survey. So you can type into Google, just look up Google Forms. I've done this many times, and you can get started for free. All you do is create a survey. Now, you need to be kind of careful with the questions that you ask on surveys and the questions that you ask when you're doing user feedback, because you really want to make sure that you're not biasing them or using leading questions. So if I say something like, would you like to be rich? No one's going to say no to that. It's not a very good question. So you need to make sure that the questions that you're asking, first of all, actually answer your problem statements, but second of all, you're not kind of leading them either intentionally or unintentionally towards the answer that you want, because as much as that looks like product validation after you've run the survey, you might find that actually what you begin to develop after that isn't really meeting the user need. But I will caveat that I really wouldn't get too bogged down in this information just yet, or this detail just yet, because really it's kind of like the validation that you get from it will still be enough that you can begin ideating some new ideas and begin understanding the user a bit better. But I'll also say, like, if you really are stuck, then just dump your hypothesis and problem statements into ChatGPT and just ask it to make you a list of like survey questions. I mean, literally from problem statements and hypothesis until having this survey ready to go, this should only really take about an hour. This doesn't take very long to do. The next way you can test is to create a mock-up. So you could do something like go to Figma, and there you've got a prototype file. Now, the level of feedback that you get is going to kind of depend on the level of detail and effort that you put into the prototype. So if you create something extremely rough, where it's clearly got a lot of errors, then you will get feedback about those errors, because it's really hard to ignore those sorts of problems. So if they say like, actually, I wanted to click this button and I couldn't, it kind of forced me to click this button, it's feedback that you can kind of ignore because it doesn't really pertain to what it is that you're doing. But be ready for that feedback. Mock-ups can be a really good way to communicate really quite complex ideas. So I think a good example is like Shopify. If I tried to explain the idea of Shopify to somebody before I'd launched it, I think they're going to look at me like, what the hell are you talking about? But if I mock it up and then show them something that's clickable and you can actually see it in an interface, it communicates the idea a lot easier. So if you are working with a complex idea, people just aren't getting it, mock-ups can be really good for this. The final one that I'll suggest for today is creating a sign-up page. So I find that Framer is really good for this. I've tried many different kind of website builders and they've felt really unintuitive to me. Stuff like Webflow felt like there was quite a learning curve. If I want to do something really quickly, I find Framer's quite good because it seems like what they've done is taken like Figma and the interface of Figma almost, and then just apply that to like a web hosting service. So I find it really quite intuitive because I know Figma. So what you can do is just create a landing page that is like a title, short description, some like features, some core features that you're trying to put out there, and then like a sign up to this, to updates on this thing. If you can track people clicking through to the website, that's really good. That is some level of validation. But if they actually do sign up, then that's even stronger validation. What you might find is that when you come back to those people, so if you do get a list of their emails, some percentage of them will have gone cold, but that kind of doesn't matter because you can still kind of blast them with like updates when they're coming, and then you can begin to identify power users if you actually begin to fully develop a product out. The final thing I want to cover is that the way that people articulate their pain isn't always as cut and dry as you'd expect. So I work in the world of data and AI, and a genuine problem statement would be something like, my data is poor quality. And that isn't wrong, and that is a problem that needs to be fixed. But if I'm talking to someone, they're never going to robotically say to me like, oh, my data is poor quality, unless there's somebody who like really is in the know, but normally they're not. What they might say instead is like, my system is just wrong. But you've got to understand that the way that somebody conceptualizes a problem and the actual problem are two different things, and that's where real value can be made. If you can really like connect this conceptualization of a problem to a real problem and then connect that to a solution, and then you can communicate that, that is real value. I'll let you go for now, but if you get stuck or have any questions, then please reach out. It can be hard to give like really good generalist advice. Usually a lot of value comes in the nuance and helping you do specific things that you want to do. So please just reach out. My door's open.